Hey everyone, I was reading through the book of Chronicles today, and I stumbled across a passage that I've heard so many times before. It's famous, and this time when I read it, just something stood out to me. And the passage is in chapter 7, and leading up to chapter 7, we see the story of Solomon building the temple. And he builds this temple. And then he prays over it and he dedicates this temple to the Lord. And then in chapter 7, verses 14, the Lord responds to Solomon. And he says this. He says, "If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and and I will forgive their sin and heal their land." I've heard this famous passage over and over again, but this time when I was reading, what really stood out to me was when God said, "If my people." If my people. He wasn't talking about all the other people on earth who didn't trust in him, who weren't his people. He wasn't saying if those people humble themselves and pray and seek my face. He was saying if my people humble themselves and seek my face and pray and turn from their wicked ways. His people. You know, for me, it's easy sometimes to point out how much evil is out in the world. And it's easy for me to disregard the areas in my life where I'm not following God. And this passage just reminds me how God was calling his people to come back. He was calling the people who knew him to come back. And you know what? Today, we are God's chosen people. In fact, in 1 Peter, I have it here, in 1 Peter chapter 2, starting in verse 9, Scripture says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." I think that there's a lot of evil out there, and I think that with people who don't know Jesus, you do see a turning away from Scripture. But I see over and over and over again in the Bible where God is calling on his people to turn to him. In the book of Hosea, chapter 14, I was randomly reading through Hosea, and at the beginning of chapter 14, here's what Scripture says: "Return, O Israel, to the Lord your God, for you have stumbled because of your iniquity. Take with your words and return to the Lord." You know, it's easy to point at those outside the faith and say, "Wow, they are so bad. I can't believe they're like that." But over and over and over again, God is calling his people to return to him. So this encourages me. I hear him saying, "Dakota, if you would humble yourself and pray and seek my face and turn from your wicked ways." And we just see it over and over again in Scripture. He's calling his people. He's calling you. He's calling me to humble ourselves and just pray and fear him. Have a reverent awe for his commandments. And then all we have to do is just watch what he's going to do. Watch the work that he's going to do because of our reverent fear of him. So I hope this passage and these passages encourage you to do exactly what God is calling his people to do. Humble yourself, pray, seek after him, and turn from your wicked ways.